Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of my series breaking down Halo 2. In today's episode, we'll be going over the development, title screen, box art, and a few other things. This game's got a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Following the release and positive reception of Combat Evolved, Bungie was ready to begin right away on a sequel. Many members of the team were excited at the opportunity to bring many of their cut ideas from Combat Evolved onto people's consoles. However, yet again, as with Combat Evolved, Microsoft's financial interests would dictate a very tight deadline, with the expected launch of the 360 at the time being in 2005. From Microsoft's perspective, Halo 2 could come out no later than 2004. During these early concept stages, decisions would be made and ideas brought forward that would shape all subsequent Halo titles. Dual wielding would be introduced, we'd get a lot more information on the Covenant's Capital High Charity, we'd get a lot more information on the Covenant in general. Despite some dissenting voices on the team, they ultimately decided Halo 2 would take place in more shoes than just the Chiefs, with the player taking control of who at the time was called the Dervish, but would later be renamed to the Arbiter in order to facilitate this sort of deeper look into the Covenant. By the time E3 2003 rolled around, the team had a significant amount of work trying to see this vision of Halo 2 through on their new stencil engine. Sadly, the new Xbox's hardware just wasn't enough to cut it, and as a result, their E3 demo had to be played rather precisely so as not to break the game in front of the live audience. And while the demo certainly made massive hype for Halo 2, even though that was already pretty immense, it was clear that the team needed to make drastic changes, and that started with the engine. With the release date unwavering and having to throw out an entire engine build so late, the team was in a dilemma, and it became clear that they would have to make the painful choice of drastically pulling back on many of their ambitions for Halo 2. Weapons were cut, game modes were cut, but the aspect definitely hit hardest was the campaign. The entire third act would be cut, and the results of this leading to the permanent change of a lot of what that third act would even contain. The Ark, which was once on Earth in the original writing, would later become its own installation outside of the Milky Way galaxy. The Arbiter, who was once written to have the final ending of the game, sort of separate of the Chief and discovering secrets about the Foreigners under the Ark as it collapsed, became no longer playable and, needless to say, never got his own missions on Earth. Rather than spawn a spontaneous romance at the end with the Chief, which is cringe in its own right, even worse, Miranda Keyes ended up literally being shot in the back instead. So, needless to say, by cutting the third act from Halo 2, the resolution of the story we got in Halo 3 ended up only vaguely resembling the original resolution in Halo 2 for its first two arcs. However, with the vast cuts and development crunch like no other, Bungie managed to get Halo 2 out on time. So let's see what we got when it shipped. The box art is straight from one of the trailers. Here we got Master Chief in a set of new armor, dual-wielding SMGs, a new weapon introduced in this game on top of a building. You got new Mombasa in the background. Awesome stuff. On the back, we've also got several nice screenshots from the game. At the bottom left, we got Chief dual-wielding a plasma rifle and an SMG, firing onto an elite on Cairo, with a pair of grunts in the background there. The text underneath reads, "Fight to save the planet in vehicles, on foot, and with the help of the last Marines on Earth." Unfortunately, the Marines admittedly still aren't too helpful outside of on turrets. The bottom middle has two blue Spartans fighting off against three red ones on burial mounds. One blue Spartan is firing his battle rifle at a retreating red Spartan who's having his shields light up because he's being hit, whilst the other blue Spartan has jumped in the air and is firing a rocket at a warthog, where one of the other two Spartans is driving and the other is in the gunner spot. And the text below this one reads, "Revel in a massively enhanced multiplayer game and take the battle to Xbox Live," which is a great selling point, because if I recall correctly, Combat Evolved did not have Xbox Live, if I'm not mistaken. The last of the bottom three picks is a first-person perspective of a red Spartan wielding an energy sword looking at two blue elites also wielding energy swords on what looks like the rocks of coagulation. In the right side of the background, there's an explosion from what's possibly a fuel rod or a banshee bomb, and to the right side, there's a scorpion. It states in the text box below, with Xbox Live, join clans, customize armor, communicate with friends, and enjoy a social experience like no other. Yeah, I'll say. Above those three, there's yet another screenshot. This one has Chief hijacking a ghost from an elite on Outskirts, and it's got two boxes of text around it. The first on the bottom right says, new weapons, new abilities, and new environments change the Halo universe in unexpected and exhilarating ways. While the other, to the left of the screenshot, reads, the destruction of Halo slowed the Covenant, but it did not stop them. Fueled by faith, fury, and vengeance, they have swept aside all of our defenses and gained a foothold on the most precious prize of all, Earth. With the human military scattered and crushed, the fate of the planet lies in the hands of one man, Spartan 117, the Master Chief. But resourceful and tenacious as he is, the Master Chief will have to rely on new weapons, unexpected allies, and a secret so incredible it will change the galaxy forever. Lastly, at the top, we've got to pick up Master Chief on Outskirts, wielding a sniper with two ODSTs firing. One's using an SMG, the other a battle rifle. They're both next to him, while behind him is a Marine on a Warthog. And above all of them are two Pelicans flying past with one simple sentence underneath, quote unquote, Earth will never be the same. Yeah, unfortunately, I think they really double down on people's inaccurate expectations from E3 as to what Halo 2 is even about. It doubles down on its emphasis so much on, that everything is going to be taking place on Earth, or that at least a significant portion of it will be, by mentioning it in multiple quotes and by having more than half of the screenshots be on just the 3 missions that are either on Earth or above it in orbit. But in reality, only 3 of the 13 missions in the campaign are even spent there, so no. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a game guide of my own and couldn't find a great picture online, so we'll have to go back to that in a later video. But one last thing before we boot up the game is the disc art. And I must say, it always disappoints me when it's literally just the same thing as the box cover, but I'm being picky at this point, so let's start the game. Nice, that's a way to get me hyped up to play. The sick guitar followed by this absolutely beautiful main menu music. Everything is varying shades of blue as the camera is moving around this awesome model of the Covenant ship over New Mombasa. Arguably my favorite menu in gaming. Here's what the alpha menu looked like for those curious. Still great, but nowhere near as perfect as what we got on release in my opinion. The beta also looked very similar to this, by the way. While we're at it, let's go over what Halo 2 brought to customization. You can modify both your primary and secondary colors. You can also choose from many awesome emblems and backgrounds, being able to choose the color of each, and you could also be either an elite or a Spartan. While compared to later Halo games, it wasn't nearly as expansive. It really laid out the groundwork for those later games to really build off of. Additionally, I think Halo 2 is a pretty good benchmark for the minimum amount of customization that should be acceptable in a title. And yes, this is me saying that being unable to be an elite since Reach, and as of Infinite, not even being able to freely choose your colors, are actually both awful changes by 343, and I'd rather have Halo 2's customization system with all the limitations it implies than Infinite's system in Infinite, which is not good. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit here, so that's going to wrap up the first episode of this series. Join me next time when we'll be covering all of Halo 2's multiplayer. Have a good one, everyone.